Yes, perfect.
Well, very good afternoon, I presume, to you, Nompu, and of course to our SABC viewers. Well, that concludes the IEC's launch. They just unveiled their 2021 municipal election campaign under the banner of Every Voice Together. Now, you heard there from the CEO, from the chairperson of the IEC, saying that the IEC is technically ready to go ahead with the elections. But I think the question that's wondering on everybody's mind is, why is the IEC probably launching the elections campaign ahead of that report by Justice Moseneke? And to talk us more about this is the CEO, Mr. Sai Mamabolo. Mr. Mamabolo, thank you so much for joining us in SABC News. We just saw, the launch of this campaign, quite a very creative one, might I say. But I mean, people are still asking their questions that why is the IEC launching this campaign ahead of Justice Moseneke's report?
Indeed, Justice Moseneke's process is ongoing, and he promised to provide a report towards the end of July. But we can't wait and remain idle until then, because otherwise we will be inadvertently be postponing an election if we did that, because lost time can never be regained. So we have hope in the process, we respect that process, and we want every political party to make use of that opportunity. And the judge will independently assess the circumstances and arrive at what I believe would be a very judicious decision. But in the meantime, the process has to move on, so that in the event we are to have the elections on the stated date, we are ready to do that. Otherwise, if we stop, we will lose time that we will never be able to regain.
When will the IEC be making their submissions to Justice Moseneke's inquiry?
We've made our submissions last week Friday, and the Justice has committed to making them public on their webpage. So anyone who wishes to have access to those submissions, they'll probably be available in that manner.
And the Commission is technically ready. We heard you on stage. The Commission is technically ready to hold the local government elections. Talk us through the theme, Every Voice Together. In 2019, it was EXE. What informed this year's theme?
That every person who's a citizen in this country stands an opportunity to influence the direction of their city, of their towns, of their communities. But we can't do that alone. You do that in a social sense, in communities, in groups, and so on. So every voice together is stronger than a single voice which tries to make changes. So we come together at the voting station, we come together at the registration station, we elect a municipal council together, and that municipal council hopefully engages in policies and service delivery programs that improve our collective good. So it's about collectivism, the individual connecting with the broader community to make changes that are necessary in our towns, in our cities and villages.
And then just briefly, lastly, before I bring in various political parties, I know I always ask this question, but of course this is for the purpose of the viewers at home. Mr. Mamabolo, if or Justice Moseneke comes out and says the local government elections need to be halted, what process needs to happen then from the Commission side in terms of legislation?
Yeah, in the event it is apparent, and the report affirms that an election is impossible on the 27th of October, in those peculiar circumstances, the Commission will probably have to approach the Concord for a postponement, or rather for authorization to conduct the elections outside of the constitutionally prescribed timelines. But that will be a period which is as short as reasonably possible to ensure that people are not infected by the virus.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. Of course, I did say that we'll be speaking to various political parties, getting their reactions. in terms of today's announcement, the IEC launching its 2021 municipal election campaign. We're joined by the chairperson of Action SA, Herman Mashaba's political party, Mr. Michael Baumann. Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. Mr. Baumann, are you happy with today's, proceedings, what you saw? I know that Action SA wasn't quite particularly happy with the IEC in terms of the Multi-Party Democracy Fund. You've accused the IEC of soliciting funds for the fund.
Well, just to be clear, we haven't accused the IEC. The IEC has made the admission that they have been actively soliciting donations for the fund. Our accusation goes that kind of action is unconstitutional because that fund only benefits certain political parties and prejudices others. And an election that's free and fair can't have the IEC picking sides.
And today, in terms of today, are you happy? We've heard that the IEC is technically ready to hold the local government elections.
Yes, we are. And I think we must recognize the IEC has an enormously difficult task ahead of them. And we do need to support their very difficult work. But there are some concerns around what we perceive to be some doublespeak. So we hear today that the elections are ready to go for free and fair elections. But at the same time, the former Deputy Chief Justice is running a process to determine if we are ready to go free and fair elections. So there are some contradictions that we are concerned about. And most notably, free and fair elections can only take place when the South African public are confident that they can vote, and they can vote safely. And that can only happen when the IEC is communicating what measures it is putting in place. At the moment, that very much remains up in the air.
So what is your stance as Action SA? Should the local government elections continue?
I think it's too early to tell. The elections are scheduled at the end of October, and all the experts are saying you can't predict where we will be there. I think the reality is elections are very important. They shouldn't be postponed unless there is a very real concern for loss of life. But we need to get much closer to that point in time to make that prediction. And anyone making that call now is doing it absent of science.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your time. Let me just bring in other members of various political parties. I am joined now by Peter Deneke from the FF+. Peter, firstly, your reaction to today's launch.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yes, as the Freedom Front Plus, we welcome this launch. We think it's good that we are ready, that the IEC is communicating not just to political parties, but also to the electorate, that they are ready and that we are having a launch such as this. It is important that our communities become aware that the election is going to take place, should it be declared safe. And obviously we're waiting for the report from Justice Moseneke to see whether it will be free and fair. But I think if we put measures in place now, it will definitely contribute to being a free and fair election. I think we have seen that the IEC, with the recent by-elections, already had some measures in place to ensure that those by-elections are free and fair. And I think if they can continue to roll out those measures, we will definitely have a free and fair election. And from the Freedom Front Plus side, we support them. We think they are doing a good job so far. Here and there we've got some questions, but luckily we have an open door where we can discuss with them, and they are taking the contributions that we as political parties make into an account.
Mr. Deneke, you talk about by-elections. The Freedom Front Plus has actually done quite well, especially in last year's by-elections. We've seen the Freedom Front Plus scooping critical wards in the Northwest from the Democratic Alliance. Your performance in Pretoria, there's steady growth amongst the electorates there. Do you anticipate somewhat of a similar trend in the upcoming local government elections?
That's correct. Last year, in specifically Northwest, we've managed to win a number of wards from the DA. With the recent by-elections in Tshwane, we've seen specifically in Fairy Glen our vote going up from 4% to 32%. We did not manage to win that ward, but the growth from 4%, meaning 1 out of every 25 people used to vote for us, to a 32% now, meaning 1 out of every 3. We're excited about that. And we are preparing for this local government election in such a way that we know we will be able to actually not just grow our proportional representation, but we are ready to take over a number of wards where the electorate is saying they've had enough of what's happened over the recent past and they want change.
Mr. Dineka, thank you so much for your time. Of course, let me just bring in other political parties. Nompu, we have members here of the ACDP. Let me just try read his placard. This is Mr. Norman Konza of the African Christian Democratic Party. Mr. Norman, the ACDP has been quite vocal, saying that they want elections to actually happen this year. So does this announcement, make you happy as a party?
Wow, we are very happy. We are very happy with this announcement, because we have always been opposed to the postponement. Because remember, it is never about us. It was nicely put that it's never about the IEC, never about the political parties, but the people of South Africa. They cannot stand another 3 months or 5 months of poor service delivery. You can see the electricity outages. It's just a mess. So we welcome this announcement, and we fully support it as the ACDP, because we know that people cannot longer stand corruption. And accountability is very important. We can see that every day new scandals. So people cannot wait any longer. So as the ACDP, we welcome it. Thank you.
Mr. Mkonza, are you not worried about your performance at the polls? Talking from last year to this year, the ACDP hasn't quite been doing well in the by-elections. And of course, you can't measure the by-elections with the local government elections. But is this not an area of concern for your party?
No, not really. I think your analysis is fair, yes. But we are not worried, because we are busy on the ground, mobilizing our people, going to our wards, checking our performance to see which wards can we go strongly to. So we are not that worried, because as long as our faith-based communities, they now can see that they've been voting wrongly, so now they are coming to us wanting for solutions. So this coming 2021 elections, we will do very well, and we will surprise a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mkonza. I'm very confident that the ACDP will be doing well in the upcoming local government elections. We are now joined by Mr. Sam Shabane of the Good Party, Patricia de Lille's Good Party. Thank you so much for joining us in SABC News. Are you elated? The Good Party has been saying that they want the local government elections to take place, and they're against what some other parties had said, call for postponement of the local government elections.
Yes, it's true. Thank you very much for having us. It is true. The Good Party is ready. We are ready for these local elections, and we don't see any need for the postponement. We have been saying, yes, we are guided by the scientific information, but however, there are by-elections that have been happening, even though there's on a smaller scale, but with the IEC's expertise and knowledge on how to manage these elections, they should be able to pull it through. And they've been also saying they are ready for this by-election. So we don't see any need when the IEC says we are ready, and also the scientifics when they're guiding us, that we can, now we're saying we're gathering 100 people inside indoors and 250 outdoors. So we are continuing, life continues. So there's no need for us to postpone these by-elections or these local elections that are coming in October.
Mr. Shaban, how confident are you that your party will do well, specifically in Gauteng? Truth be told, there hasn't been any form of showing from the Good Party. Like I said to my previous guest, you can't measure, the by-elections or use the by-elections as a barometer for the local government elections. But the Good Party hasn't been that visible.
I agree with you that we have not been visible, but we have not been sleeping. So we have been doing work. We are covering Gauteng, and we are participating in the local elections in Gauteng. And to be honest with you, people are not seeing us, yes, but however, there is work going in the background. So we are launching branches in Gauteng, and not necessarily in Gauteng. In the whole country, we are launching branches, and for us, we are seeing a projection that is going up in terms of the growth that we're seeing in Gauteng. So we are growing in numbers, we are growing in membership in Gauteng. So for us, we are now saying, based on what we're seeing, the growth that we're seeing, we are able to say we will be ready come the 27th of October to participate and also produce the good municipalities in Gauteng.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Shabane. I've got other political parties here just trying to doorstep various members of these political parties here. I'm joined by Margaret Arnold of the African Independent Congress, the AIC. I'll also be joined by members of the IFP. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Ma, thank you so much for having us on the SABC News. I'm good on you, sir. Your reaction to today's announcement?
My reaction is very mixed today, and it's not my reaction, but it's the reaction of the African Independent Congress. Let me take you back about 2 months back. There was a PLC meeting where political parties were going to discuss the impact of COVID and whether we could have elections during the COVID period, right? And funny enough, the night before, the president announces the date. So why were we called as political parties? What were we going to discuss? That is one. Two days ago, we all as political parties got a letter from Judge Moseneke that is heading the team. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but here we are today launching the logo. And we are saying to ourselves, we still have to give our input. Is our input going to do anything? Will it do anything? And then we're also asking the question as the AIC. When you wake up in the morning and you see your television says to you, 120 people has died of COVID, we're in a third wave. How are we going to campaign? I know a family that went to a funeral over the weekend. 25 people are now infected in the family. Is this going to be free and fair? Is it conducive for us? Who made the Constitution? Us. We. As South Africans. So who can change the Constitution? Us, as political parties, as people, as citizens of the country. Why are we being forced to go to elections? But we are also saying, if there is elections, we are ready. We'll go to elections, but we are also saying we're not really happy as the African Independent Congress.
Thank you so much, Ms. Arnold. Thank you. Well, Ms. Arnold's sharing the same sentiments there brought forth by the IFP, saying that certainly, I mean, if the country is facing this COVID-19 pandemic, why is it that the country is still going to elections? As you see now, Nompu, the IEC launching the 2021 elections campaign and unveiling it as well. You also share the same sentiments. The EFF shared the same sentiments, I beg your pardon, calling for the elections to be amalgamated and rather the country having elections in 2024. It's quite surprising and quite interesting that the EFF is not here today. As you know that they've got a press conference tomorrow at 2 o'clock at their headquarters in Bamfontein. The ANC is also a no-show. I did not see members of the DA. So as SABC News, we tried to solicit all the views of the various political parties. And as you've seen, these are the ones that we actually spoke to. It would be quite interesting to hear whether those three major political parties, including the IFP, that actually criticized the IEC for this launch ahead of Justice Moseneke's report that is due on the 21st of July. But as for me, Nompo here and the SABC team at the Sandton Convention Center, it's back to you in studio.
Thanks very much, my colleague there, Natasha Phiri, at the IEC's local government elections launch, and they say that they're ready, whatever comes.